Tang Wulin discovered an issue. It seemed that he ate more while standing up than when seated. There was already quite a crowd surrounding him. This guy's stomach isn't that big, yet how can he eat so much? He's about to break the record. I remember our intermediate academy's steamed bun record is 43. How many has this guy eaten already? He's already broken the record by eating 45. How formidable! What's more, he doesn't even look like a big eater. The steamed buns are palm-sized too. The Academy's steamed buns have always been this large. Zhou Zhangxi had long since started to foolishly stare at Tang Wulin. He had always thought he could eat a lot. In fact, he had even managed to eat 20 steamed buns before becoming too full. This was simply ground meat along with vegetable soup. Tang Wulin not only ate the steamed buns, but he also drank the soup. Every 5 buns he would drink a large mouthful of soup. He looked as if he was truly enjoying himself. The palm-sized steamed buns were really delicious. They were stuffed with a big meatball on the inside. As soon as one bit into the bun, fatty juices would flow out. It truly was too delicious. What was most important, it still wasn't enough. I'll have to trouble everyone. Tang Wulin finished the 50th bun, then walked up to the third meal window. Yun Zio patted Zhou Zhangxi's shoulder. Let's go and get started on cleaning the room. Now that I know he can out-eat you, I finally understand why he's stronger. This is called the law of conservation of energy. The more one eats, the more strength they would have. Zhou Zhangxi's face was decrepit as he took in this scene. Tang Wulin ordered another 20 steamed buns. Back at home, feeding Tang Wulin had been Tang Zuren and Lang Yue's greatest headache. This child was truly too capable in eating. Moreover, when Nair was there, the two were practically competing in how much they could eat. Zhou Zhangxi's own eating ability was great in comparison with his peers. On the other hand, Tang Wulin was basically on a whole different level. After releasing a long sigh, Zhou Zhangxi looked towards Tang Wulin. I never thought anyone could actually eat a whole cow before, but after seeing your eating prowess, I believe it to be possible now. I agreed to the bet, so I must accept this loss. I'll head back and begin cleaning first. You can continue on with setting your record. Tang Wulin hadn't been all that worried about winning or losing. For him, being able to eat until he was completely full was much more important. In the end, the Intermediate Academy's steamed bun record was set at 80 buns and 5 large bowls of vegetable soup. When Tang Wulin left the dining hall feeling perfectly satisfied, all eyes were on him. After returning to the dormitory, Zhou Zhangxi was cleaning the room, but avoided Tang Wulin's laundry as Tang Wulin hadn't permitted it. Tang Wulin wished to wash it himself. Yun Zio assisted Zhou Zhangxi with cleaning the room. In the end, the room's atmosphere had become much more harmonious. Right as they were finishing up with cleaning the room, Zai came in with a face wrapped in a towel. The swelling on his face had clearly been reduced by a lot, but it was still as unsightly as before. For you, he threw a paper bag towards Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin opened it and saw a pile of federal bills. In the face of all this money, Tang Wulin couldn't help but seem a bit dazed. When he had tried to earn 30,000 federal coins in Glorybound City, it had taken him a full 3 years. For these wealthy people, however, it was simply pocket money. We start class tomorrow, so tomorrow night after school you'll come with me, Zai coldly said. All right, Tang Wulin agreed without the slightest hesitation. Yun Zio said, Zai, just let it be. We'll be staying in the same dormitory for the next 6 years. Zai coldly looked at him, then unceremoniously laid down on his bottom bunk. Tang Wulin asked Yun Zio, there won't be any problems if I go out this afternoon, right? Yun Zio answered, we haven't officially started classes yet, so naturally there won't be any issues. You just need to be back before lights go out. Otherwise, you'll be faced with disciplinary action. When he heard the words disciplinary action, Tang Wulin's heart tightened up for a moment. He didn't actually fear disciplinary action, instead he feared the potential fines. I'll be back by then. After washing his dirty clothes and blanket, Tang Wulin left the dormitory. According to Mang Tian's instructions, after arriving in East Sea City, Tang Wulin needed to go to a place called the Blacksmiths Association. Mang Tian had given him the address of his workshop in East Sea City. There wasn't anyone working there, but it still had a forging room for Tang Wulin to use. Mang Tian had told him that he needed to register at the Blacksmiths Association in order to be able to accept tasks. These tasks would hone his skills. Every month, Mang Tian would come and inspect his progress as well as give him some instructions. After accepting his fate when fusing with the little grass snake, Goldlight, Tang Wulin had become much more focused on forging, especially after completing the 1,000 refinements. Completing the 1,000 refinements had made him understand that in the future, he would likely become a blacksmith like his teacher. Thus, he couldn't relax and had to continue refining his forging skills. Moreover, he could earn money by forging. In addition to supplementing his family's income, he needed money to wander the continent in search of Nair in the future. He hadn't asked Yun Zio where the Blacksmiths Association was because he didn't want the other students to know he was a blacksmith. He first went to the administration building to pay the fines before leaving the academy's campus. East Sea City's unfamiliar atmosphere once again pressed down on Tang Wulin's heart. Glorybound City really is the best. It was so nice and peaceful there. Although he didn't know where the Blacksmiths Association was, he still had a mouth below his nose. He could always just ask someone. After making several inquiries, he gained a rough understanding of where the Blacksmiths Association was located. East Sea City was very big. In fact, it was several times larger than Glorybound City. For the sake of saving money, Tang Wulin walked the whole journey to the Blacksmiths Association. It wasn't too bad. The Blacksmiths Association was not that far from East Sea Academy, and Tang Wulin had eaten his fill during lunch. After walking for half an hour, his destination was already in sight. The Blacksmiths Association was easily recognizable with its gray-colored building and height of 30 floors, along with, at the very top, a design of a hammer. With this design, there wasn't even a need to engrave the association's name onto a plate. Tang Wulin walked through the big glass doors on the first floor and was immediately faced with a 10-meter-tall wall with an 8-meter-tall golden hammer sculpture on it. Although the Blacksmiths Association wasn't as rich as the Mecha Craftsmen's Association, it was still a necessary existence. A first-rate blacksmith's status in society was exceedingly high. In fact, their status was comparable to that of Mecha Craftsmen Grandmasters. In order to make a first-rate mecha, first-rate materials were naturally needed. As such, first-rate blacksmiths were needed to process first-rate materials. The lounge on the first floor was very spacious and empty. There were only 2 young ladies dressed in gray at the reception desk. "Little brother, who are you looking for?" When they saw Tang Wulin walk towards them, one of the 2 ladies who had a sweet-looking appearance took the initiative to stand up and greet him. Tang Wulin bashfully said, I'm here to take the blacksmith's ranking test." Pachai, the well-developed young lady to the side, laughed and said with a smile, "Look at him, his face is already red. Little brother, your eyes are really pretty." The sweet-looking young lady rebuked, "Don't be so noisy, Yuan. Little brother, you want to take the blacksmith's ranking test?" Tang Wulin nodded and answered somewhat anxiously. "Yes," the sweet young lady said. "Where's your family, or your teacher?" Tang Wulin shook his head. "My teacher had me come alone and told me to find someone called Grandmaster Sen Yue." When they heard the name Sen Yue, the 2 young ladies' expressions stiffened, and the sweet young lady hastily said, "Please wait a moment then. I'll go ask if Grandmaster Sen Yue is available right now." "Have you ever spoken to Grandmaster Sen over the soul communicator?" Tang Wulin shook his head once again. How could he possibly own a soul communicator? Although a soul communicator was convenient, the communication fees and the equipment costs were extraordinarily expensive. Even his hometown had only one fixed soul communicator. He was even planning to look for a coin-operated soul communicator to call his mother and father later and report that he was safe and sound. "Grandmaster Sen, there's a child looking for you." That's right, he has really large eyes and is wearing plain clothes," the sweet-looking young lady said as she pressed down on a number to connect to Grandmaster Sen. After hanging up the communicator, the sweet young lady said to Tang Wulin, "Little brother, Grandmaster Sen has some time right now. Follow me." As she said this, she began guiding Tang Wulin to the side of the large hall. The well-developed lady, Yuan, stuck out her tongue as she watched them leave and said to herself, I couldn't even tell. The little guy actually knows Grandmaster Sen. When the Seoul elevator's metal doors opened up, Tang Wulin nearly jumped with fright. This was the first time he had ever seen anything like this. Come here. The sweet young lady didn't tease him at all. Rather, she gave him a tender smile. Tang Wulin went over to her side. The sweet young lady said, My name is Yun Zioling. Grandmaster Sen's office is on the 15th floor. I'll take you to see him, and then he will take you to conduct the blacksmith's ranking test. Thank you, big sister, Tang Wulin politely said. Yun Zioling looked at him, her gaze moving up and down, sizing him up. Although this child was wearing extremely plain clothing, he was still very good-looking. Most of all were those big eyes of his, which could even make a girl jealous. Moreover, despite his simplicity, he was extraordinarily courteous, giving others a very good opinion of him. Ding! The elevator stopped on the 15th floor and the doors opened. The walls were made of a white metal, while the ceiling and floors were white too. Neat and tidy, that was Tang Wulin's first impression. There were 2 rooms on both sides of the hall leading out of the elevator. Yun Zioling brought him to one of the doors which had Sen Yue's nameplate on it. She pressed the button above it. Grandmaster Sen, it's Yun Zioling. I've brought the child here. N. A deep voice was heard from within the room. Then the door opened. The office was approximately 30 square meters in size with a massive wooden desk that took up nearly a quarter of the room's space. Behind the wooden desk stood a man in his 40s. This man wasn't particularly tall, but he was absolutely well built. His shoulders were especially wide, with a black jacket resting on his deltoids. At this moment, he was looking at a design plan laid out on his desk. Grandmaster Sen, Yun Zioling softly called out, N. Sen Yue raised his head and looked over. His gaze immediately fell on Tang Wulin as he looked at him with curious eyes. You're Mang Tian's disciple. Yes, hello, Grandmaster Sen. Teacher told me to greet you in his place, Tang Wulin said respectfully. Sen Yue's eyes wrinkled as he frowned. Mang Tian, that guy, had always set his eyes on surpassing the peak, yet he actually took in such a young disciple like you. Let's go then. I'll bring you to take the blacksmith's ranking test. Blacksmiths lived in the world of metal and were completely unconcerned about other worldly matters. Although he was unconvinced of Mang Tian accepting such a young disciple, the ranking test would verify everything, Yun Zioling said. Grandmaster, I'll go back down then. N. Sen Yue nodded as Yun Zioling smiled at Tang Wulin once more before heading off. Sen Yue brought Tang Wulin out of the room soon after and once again entered the Seoul elevator. They rode the elevator down with Yun Zioling, except this time they were getting off on the 3rd floor. As the elevator descended, Sen Yue turned to Tang Wulin and said, Little guy, Mang Tian never told me what rank blacksmith you are at right now. Tang Wulin shook his head. Teacher never told me either. He just told me to come take the test and accept some tasks after. He can accept tasks? Off to the side, Yun Zioling couldn't help but be surprised. In order to accept tasks, it meant that he was at least a rank 2 blacksmith. Rank 1 blacksmiths weren't able to directly accept tasks. Instead, a higher rank blacksmith had to accept the task and assign some of the work to them. Sen Yue asked again, Then do you understand how blacksmith ranks are organized? Tang Wulin nodded. Teacher said that blacksmiths are divided into 9 ranks. Rank 1 and 2 blacksmiths are master ranks. Ranks 3 and 4 are grandmaster. Ranks 5 and 6 are master craftsmen. Ranks 7 and 8 are saint craftsmen, and at the very peak of rank 9, they are divine craftsmen. N. Sen Yue nodded. Right at that moment, the elevator had reached the 3rd floor. Goodbye, big sister. Tang Wulin bid farewell to Yun Zioling as he followed Sen Yue out of the elevator. Compared to the tranquil 15th floor, the 3rd floor of the Blacksmiths' Association was much more noisy. Tang Wulin heard the familiar clanking sounds of blacksmiths at work throughout the hall. Sen Yue brought Tang Wulin to the front desk and said to the staff member, Open up the testing room for me and ask a surveyor to come over. Grandmaster Sen, is this your disciple? He's so young, is he even 12 years old? The staff member curiously looked at Tang Wulin. Sen Yue took some forms from the staff member and handed them to Tang Wulin. "Fill these out first. Fill out your basic circumstances." Tang Wulin took the form and began to seriously fill it out. Sen Yue read along from the side as he filled it out. Tang Wulin, born in Gloribound City, 9 years old, Eastsea Academy's Intermediate Division, 1st grade, you're only 9 years old. At this matter, both he and the staff member were astonished. He was only 9 years old, yet he was coming to take the blacksmith's test. This hadn't happened in the Blacksmiths Association for many, many years. Historically, the youngest testee had been 8 years and 6 months old. Moreover, that person was now working on the Blacksmiths Association's 30th floor. That person was a once-in-a-lifetime blacksmithing genius. Now in front of their eyes was a child that was only 9 years old. If he was able to pass the blacksmith's test, then what would that signify? Sen Yue thought about this with even more interest because Tang Wulin had previously said that Mang Tian let him accept tasks directly. That meant this child was at least a rank 2 blacksmith. This was a record-breaking achievement. The staff member said, "Grandmaster Sen, testing room 3 is open."